All right, just gonna do a little forward here on this episode of DQP Does. So we recorded this episode a couple weeks ago, and found out today that Ruker Hauer has passed away. So we're gonna dedicate this episode to him. And rest in peace, sir. All right. So, not really welcome back, but sort of welcome back. This is the first episode of DQP Does where we are not doing the MCU. We are going to talk about Blade Runner. Tonight we watched Blade Runner Final Cut. We are going to watch Blade Runner 2049, correct?
Yep.
2049 next week, and we're going to talk about both these movies. I don't think we're going to have any comic book tangents in these movies.
We'll see.
We'll find out.
Motherfucker.
If he goes, I go with him on the tangent.
Makes sense. One and the same. I got it.
Yeah. So tonight I have with me the regular cast, Nathan,
Well, hello there.
Russell,
What up?
and I am your host, Shane. So the movie was made in 1982. There was the original version. There was a director's cut, which apparently wasn't actually a director's cut, because then there was the final cut, which is the one we watched tonight, which was exactly how Ridley Scott wanted it.
Yes.
Okay. So make sure I get that right. Because I knew there were 3 versions, but I didn't know all the details about why and how that all came about.
3 seconds ago, Nathan actually discovered
7 versions of Blade Runner exist as a result of controversial changes requested by studio executives.
Holy shit.
That is on Wikipedia.
What the fuck? Why?
I don't know. Should we do them all?
Yeah, I mean that should be a series, right? Like let's start this one, and then every couple months we'll watch another, like, go back one and see if we can find all the differences. First of all, let's talk about the cast, and then we can talk about the differences that I noticed right away, because the last one I watched was the director's cut, which almost completely removes the whole, like, storyline from the movie. Anyway, cast: Harrison Ford. This was a year after the first Indiana Jones, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. You had an interesting fact about that.
The scar on his chin he got from playing with the whip when he was learning how to use the whip for Indiana Jones.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and something I had no idea about.
Yeah, I knew he had that scar. It's kind of like, Bruce Willis has the scar under the one arm.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm assuming is like a torn rotator cuff or something, but like it's never talked about in anything. I've never seen anything about it, but I always see it because, like, in the Die Hard movies, he's always wearing a fucking A shirt, a tank top. So you see that scar, and it's like, what the fuck is that?
I just assume that's all that is in Bruce Willis's closet is just A shirts.
Yeah, just A shirts, and like.
And none of them are clean.
They all have blood stains on them. He takes every movie he's in. He's like, all I can wear once the shit starts is A shirts, okay? And then I get to take them home.
Yeah, and like right now in his house, he's got one. He's like, this has Alan Rickman's blood from an accidental punch.
Yeah,
he signed it right here
in his blood.
We're already off topic. Okay.
Okay.
I am incorrect. Harrison Ford says he received that scar from a car crash.
You son of a bitch. You made it way cooler than it was.
I did. Oops.
And now all the people that are listening are so disappointed.
We're going to go with the first version because it's way cooler.
Yeah, we'll make a director's cut where we correct it.
Well, we're going to...
redacted
We're
cut.
going to implant new memories into everyone, and including Harrison Ford.
So that scene in Indiana Jones is because they wanted to explain why he had the scar.
Oh my
that's
God.
dumb. Anyway,
They could have just done nothing and that would have been better.
Rutger Hauer. Did I say Rutger? Rutger Hauer? Whatever.
Rutger
Associations
Hauer.
with Shane.
I can say that guy's name. I don't know why I made it Rooker. I was thinking of Michael Rooker. I don't know.
MCU hangover.
Yondu was not in this movie.
Yeah.
But it'd been a lot cooler if he was.
This movie is pretty cool as it is. But yeah, Rutger Hauer plays Roy. I guess Harrison Ford plays Deckard. We got Edward James Olmos, who plays Gaff, who I feel like had less of a role in this version.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I noticed. I was actually going to count how many
Lines he had.
Well, figures he places.
Yeah, because it
and
was
then in this one there was only 2.
3.
3.
The last one, the unicorn at the end, and then
Right.
there's when he first shows up, in the
Police station.
The police station.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
a
yeah,
crane,
he leaves one on the
and
captain's
then
desk.
And then he leaves one in what the fuck was Brian James's character's name? Kowalski. He leaves a matchstick man
Yeah.
in his apartment. So Sean Young played what was her character's name? Rachel. That's what it was. Don't answer me all at once. And Daryl Hannah was Pris, and then Brian James was Kowalski. The only reason I bring up Brian James, he was one of the 4 replicants, but it's a pretty small part. But Brian James was like the random like henchman bad guy to call through the 80s and 90s. He was in every fucking action movie ever, and he always died. And the dude gave, like, I mean, I'm sure all 3 of us and many other people that like action movie henchman like
Vibe.
yeah, well, I mean, just that archetype. So, when we were playing with our action figures, he was the dude that we imagined, the one random that, like, our G.I. Joe killed right away. That's who he was. It was Brian James,
No.
No? Okay,
No.
whatever.
Mine were always killing. Amy Schumer. Little throwback.
Oh, shit.
Damn it.
He's marking the time.
So do you think Bruce Willis has an A shirt in his closet with that guy's blood on it?
I am 100% positive he does. I don't know from what movie. It wasn't the first Die Hard.
Oh, he was probably 2 because it was on the airport and there were so many random characters, but that's so off subject. Now we have to do Die Hard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The first 3, though. Just the first 3.
There's more.
There was no more after that. I don't know what
Okay.
he's talking about.
Good. I mean, that was pretty much it for the main cast. There were a few other main characters, but they were kind of like they became character actors after this, or were already character actors. A couple people that were in lots of things. The guy that played JF Sebastian, the guy that played Tyrell.
Yeah.
They're all in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. And the captain.
Yeah, the captain. Actually, Holden at the beginning, the first Blade Runner that Kowalski kills.
Yeah.
I recognize him too, but I don't know from what. Anyway, moving on from the cast. Unless we want to talk a little bit more about each person individually.
Harrison Ford I'll talk about him for a second.
Okay.
So his earlier films versus his later films, he kind of has the similar thing that happened, I feel like, with Bruce Willis, actually, where they played characters for a while, but like the characters had small similarities.
Yeah.
That those small similarities became what was already probably their personality.
Yeah.
But then definitely just like fell into those roles throughout pretty much the rest of their career.
Yeah.
That's accurate.
I mean, that's typecasting.
Yeah.
But like more loose typecasting than a lot of people are afraid of, I think.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, let's think about this. Harrison Ford in this movie versus Star Wars versus Indiana Jones. Similarities, but different characters. And then you get to like Air Force One. There's no president that ever acted like that. It's definitely just Harrison Ford being a grumpy old man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think Deckard has a lot more in common with Han Solo than he does with Indiana Jones.
I think that's very debatable, though.
And in that he's like reluctant to do the job that he's asked to do. The way that he acts, a lot of, I mean, it's Harrison Ford, so obviously a lot of the like facial expressions and reactions to things are very similar. But also kind of like the semi-forced love interest, a lot of that.
Every Harrison Ford movie, though. Because, and I'll make this point.
Well, and that's 80s, though, as well.
And I'll give you that, but I'll make this point with Han Solo, cocky, brash Han Solo. Indy was pretty kind of straight up, and Deckard, he didn't really joke around a whole lot. He was kind of straight up. So I'm going to say he was more like Indiana Jones.
Well, I mean, even Indy's funny. Like,
but he's not trying.
Well, it's like
Han tried.
It's like sarcastic humor,
right?
In the same way.
And then go ahead and compare Han the first time you seen Han to the last time we seen Han in Star Wars.
Wait.
Two different Hans again. There you go.
But
are you talking the actual last time or the last time in the Holy Trinity?
Well,
okay, if this has to do with comic books and books,
no,
I'm just talking about the movies that I seen.
He means in reference to the actual trilogy,
the
or
first
like
trilogy,
the new movies too.
Yeah,
I'm
Return.
Yeah,
are you talking about Return of the Jedi? Okay, new movies. Okay,
yeah.
Some of us don't consider those Star Wars movies.
No,
but
no, they're Star Wars movies. They say Star Wars at the front of it.
Okay,
well, yeah.
I mean, in the same way that Live Free or Die Hard is a Die Hard movie.
Live Free's at the beginning of it. There you go.
No,
lawyered,
but.
No,
I think it's interesting that you compared Han Solo to Deckard and Indy to Deckard, when I think the actual parallel is Han Solo and Indy are much more closer in characterization than Deckard is to either of those characters.
Yeah, I mean, it's also kind of the tone of the movie, because there is like zero humor in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I laughed. I probably wasn't supposed to,
but if we're talking about the same scene, I think we all laughed, but I don't know that we were supposed to.
Right.
But it was similar. It was similar to some of the humor that's in Star Wars and Indiana Jones, because a lot of that stuff is situational humor, where he's put in a weird spot and he reacts awkwardly or uncomfortably.
Yeah.
So that particular scene where they're talking about the snake and the lady, and he kind of looks away like, "Oh, what? That's really happening right now." This is very similar to the humor in as far as Han goes in Star Wars and Indiana Jones.
And when he played the character in the dressing room, and then he he had to act and give himself a different voice. I mean, that's very similar to situations in Indiana Jones.
Yes, that is very similar.
Is true.
Some indie stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm coming around a little bit.
I'll get you there.
So with Harrison Ford,
both of you,
and I
know you will.
I know he does it a little bit in Star Wars and he does a little bit in Indy, but I feel like this movie was really probably the first movie he was able to use mostly his facial expressions to convey his emotions and his acting rather than his dialogue.
There were a lot of just like close-up face shots in this movie.
Yeah.
A lot. And thinking back, I mean, I'm sure it would be a little different if we like watched them right now, but thinking back, I don't remember seeing that many in either of those movies. There were certain scenes, obviously, where it was like, hey, you know, Han's talking to Leia, we're gonna get the close-up shot of both of them, or you know, Indy's talking to Ravenwood. Is that her name?
I don't remember.
God, I can't remember. She's in the first one, and Crystal Skull. I can't remember what her name is. Ravenwood, I think.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
No, yeah, the last name's right. I know that.
Yeah. Anyway, you know, similar thing where it's like, or like if he's talking to his dad, similar shit where it's like supposed to be emotional or you're supposed to see the facial reaction, are in those movies, but it's not nearly as prevalent as it is in this movie. There's like scenes where he's just looking at something and it's like, okay, we're gonna do a close up, react, and like that's not in the other movies. You know?
Yeah.
I really feel like it just shows like the range
Yeah,
that he has
I'm not-
too. And I know
Yeah.
you're not knocking it. I'm
Yeah.
just saying like that's how good of a fucking actor he is.
Right. And it's partially, or actually probably a lot to do with it being a totally different style of director.
You know what else you didn't get that you get in every Harrison Ford movie in this, and maybe I just didn't catch it. You know that like half-ass smirk that he does, like when a situation comes around that's in his advantage or
Yeah.
something, and he kind of like he's got that solemn look, and then he kind of gets that like one side up smile.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
get it, and you get it all the time in Star Wars. You get it in Indiana Jones constantly. I didn't see that one time. Was
No.
he like happy?
No,
Yeah,
'cause-
he's never happy in this movie. He's never like wanting to do the thing he's doing.
It's because
Right.
it's raining all the time.
well, and he quit twice as much.
Twice as quit.
He's twice
Yeah.
as quit.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and that has to do with the tone of the movie because like the movie is so somber and like everything is super serious. Even the scene that you referred to where he's changed the tone of his voice. Actually, he might have had that smirk just a little bit in that scene.
We'd have to go back and look.
yeah.
Possibly.
But when he's talking to the snake lady, and even in that scene, what they're talking about is very serious, and she's not taking him seriously, and like what he's doing is serious, and then it turns into an action scene, and it none of the movie has anywhere near the same tone as any of the Star Wars or Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah, that's I've always been in love with this movie. I remember being 12, 13. Harrison Ford received an award years later, specifically for this movie, and they showed a scene. And the scene that they showed is when he's walking through what's his name? JF?
Yeah, J.F. Sebastian's
Yeah,
house.
J.F. Sebastian.
Or his
When he's walking
apartment.
through J.F. Sebastian's house,
the Bradbury Apartments.
yeah. When he's walking through that apartment and Daryl Hannah ends up attacking him and like she
Yeah.
dies and like that whole scene.
They showed the whole scene.
Yeah, they showed the
Wow.
whole scene and I was like, what the fuck is that movie?
Yeah.
And then they showed two clips. There was that clip and then it won. It might have actually been in 97 when this one came out because it won a graphics award that same year I was watching that same award show.
Yeah, special effects.
Yeah. And it showed the scene at like near the beginning where it shows the pyramids
Yeah.
and like just a beautiful fucking scene.
Yeah, where it's showing like the fly-in scene for the city.
Yeah. And I was like, I have to watch this movie. What is this?
Yeah.
And then I was at the movie store with my parents and I like found it and I was like, this is that movie. Because I don't know if you remember how hard it was to figure out what things were before the internet.
Oh yeah, I know.
So I essentially just walked
I
around
read the back
video
of
store.
so many fucking VHS tapes.
Yeah.
So many.
Right. So I essentially just walked around the video store looking for that looking for any sort of
Right.
picture that would indicate what movie I was looking for, and I finally found on the back of the VHS tape it had that picture of the pyramids.
Yes.
And so I took it to my parents and I was like, I want to watch this. And my mom was like, you can't watch that.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
why not? This looks awesome. This is like rated R. It's clearly like an adult themed movie.
Oh yeah.
It's real dark, which that was a weird thing that my mom had. She didn't like me watching dark movies. Like, so even if it was like a PG-13 or like PG, like if it was too
Like
dark.
dark themes?
Yeah, like dark themes.
Okay. I mean, like the way you were saying it made me think she didn't like dimly lit movies.
I mean,
just
she
like,
doesn't.
Neither do you, so
What?
it's fine.
But so then I finally, a couple years later, I got to watch the movie, and I was just like, this movie is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's a slow burn, like we were talking about. So Nathan, I was very curious if you were going to like it, because I remember when I had you watch A Clockwork Orange, which is another one of my favorite movies that's extraordinary slow burn. I didn't know how you were gonna enjoy this movie.
Well, I won't talk about A Clockwork Orange because that's definitely for another podcast that I won't be on. But no, it was slow, and like I read the Wikipedia on it after we watched it, just because I wanted to get some facts about it, and it underperformed when it first came out because it was slow, and it lacked action.
Right.
It had action. I like that. It had a good storyline. It was definitely slow though, and like stuff like that has a hard time keeping my attention.
Right.
Because I'm like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
So like I need pretty lights and action.
See, and that's something that I wanted to talk about a little bit, because it takes its time with everything.
Right, and that's not always a bad thing at all. Like I was still very much interested past the halfway point.
Right. Like Russell was talking about the beginning of the movie. There's that establishing shot of L.A. and it says that it's L.A. and says that it's November of 2019.
Yeah,
and that establishing shot is about 10 times longer than any establishing shot that we saw in the MCU when we were watching the Marvel movies. But that sets the tone and like completely fills you in as to the setting of the movie, because it shows this like weird, almost dystopian, like cyberpunk LA with like fucking methane flame jets coming out of the top of a bunch of towers and shit. You see all the like disarray and like people living on the street and just trash everywhere and shit. It completely fills you in as to the setting, and you never have any dialogue about it.
Yep.
Nobody ever talks about how fucked the city is. You just see it.
There is one line that I really like, and it's when the captain basically tells Deckard that he's doing it. And he says, well, if you're not a cop, you're little people.
Yeah.
And I was like, authoritarian as fuck.
Yeah.
And it's just the one line. And there's a ton of world building in this movie that is so small
and subtle.
And and subtle. Like that's also another thing I really enjoy about it, is just like it's not in the foreground. Like you're not learning about the world. You're learning about characters in the story.
But if you're paying attention,
the world's there.
Yeah.
And that's what a good sci-fi movie needs to be.
Right.
And that's what the first 3 Star Wars movies achieved. They achieved, hey, these are characters in this world.
Right.
You're going to learn about the world a little bit as we go.
Right.
And then, like, that was what good sci-fi was. And, I mean, continues to be, but we just have so little astonishing sci-fi that...
Yeah, we've gotten away from that. Everybody gets, like, really into the world building, and they have to explain everything instead of, like... And it's partially the problem of the audience too, because a lot of people want to be spoon-fed things. I mean, you just said it. You're basically a 5-year-old. You want everything to have action and everything, and I don't have a problem with action movies that are, balls to the wall all the time. But there also needs to be and I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying, like,
not taking it like that. I know how I am.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, like, there needs to be movies that take a little bit of thinking to either get or to really fully appreciate everything about it.
See, and I'm just different because like I can sit there and watch a King's Speech, which is a slow burn.
Yeah.
And I was completely enthralled the whole movie. I loved every minute of it. But like, and I'm not saying this movie was bad in any way. It's just
right.
80s movies were very particular. And you just go through those time periods. Like the older a movie is, it has a different way of pulling in the crowd. And some movies can stand the test of that. And I'm not saying this one didn't. It just, for me, like it was kind of slow. But I mean, I still was very much into it.
And it's kind of like
we didn't say it earlier, but this is the first time I've watched this movie.
Right. It's the first time you've watched it. But there's also this pandering that has come about in the last, 20 years or more of film where, and everything actually, TV, film, music, where it's, you just do the parts that people like. And it's a really big problem for me personally in music where, bubblegum pop is just 5-second intro, chorus, something else, chorus, different chorus, but so that's what movies have become. And that's what books and TV and, comics to some extent have become, where it's just the parts that they think everyone will buy because it's sugar.
Right.
Yes.
I understand what you're saying completely.
Yeah. So like it kind of has lost a little bit of the integrity of the art form, right?
Okay.
I'm not saying that this is the epitome of the integrity of an art form because there's 7 different fucking versions of it, all trying to be sold for some reason or another specifically because of that. There was an executive somewhere that was like, oh, well, this isn't going to fucking sell. We should make it like this, but.
And I do want to make one good point about this movie. And it's because it's the final cut. It was redone in 2007. But the visuals
1997.
On this one, but the visuals that were redone were from 97?
It wasn't remastered. It was re-edited.
Yeah.
That's different.
So when are these visuals dated from?
1982.
Yeah.
And they are fucking gorgeous.
Yes.
Every ounce of it. Like, better than, and I'll say it, a Bruce Willis movie, because it's all going back to 6 Degrees of Bruce Willis tonight. It looks better than The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that it could be debatable, but I'm going to throw it out there because like in same situations with flying cars, it's not as busy and congested. It looks really good. And it could be because it's darkly filmed. I don't know.
Right. So we should do The Fifth Element because I feel like you both like that movie and I hate it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that would be
But I also haven't watched it in like 7 or 8 years.
Well, now we got to find the final cut of that.
Well, I mean, it's on Netflix.
But
I know
something we talked about consistently throughout, the DQP does the MCU is practical effects versus CGI.
Yes.
And that, like, you watch the first Star Wars trilogy, like, it still looks so good.
Yeah, because it's real things.
Yeah. And it's miniature scales, which, I mean, I guess maybe it takes more time to do than CGI, especially now with the computing power that we have. But, like, if you really want to create something that's going to withstand the test of time, like, we watched some of those Marvel movies, they already look bad.
Yep.
And watching this movie on your 4K television from 1982
looks amazing.
Is fucking gorgeous.
Yeah, it was sexy as hell.
Yeah.
Like, it was just,
You know who did
it was
Fire
so
right?
inviting.
Ridley Scott in 1982. You know who did Wet People right? Ridley Scott in 1982.
So you're saying the wet people in this look better than the wet people in the Incredible Hulk?
Yes,
or
I
the
am.
Wet Incredible Hulk.
Yes, I am saying that. Definitely.
Throwback.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so to touch again on your point, with, bubblegum pop and bubblegum movies and bubblegum comics, and I've even noticed that reading a couple of the comics I've read recently that are newer.
Yeah.
Oh shit, it happened.
Bye, Nathan.
It's just a quick reference. A couple of them it's all the culmination scenes.
Yep.
That the slow story builds to.
Yep.
And like that, all of it worries me because you can't turn on the radio now. I mean, there's some pop music that is extraordinarily
Legitimate.
artistic and legitimate. Cassie will be extremely happy that I will call out Taylor Swift currently, just because I do enjoy her as an artist. But
Stop sucking your girlfriend's dick.
That's a weird sentence.
Hey man, T Swift is badass, and I'm not sucking any
I don't
dicks.
know,
But it's also a lot of the stuff she does surrounding the music that I think is awesome. Now, I don't go out of my way to listen to her.
I mean,
but
it's a
like-
marketing thing, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But we have we're going to do probably a lot of these 80s movies and
Oh, yeah.
maybe even some 70s stuff.
Well, there's at least one we're gonna do.
Oh yeah. A slow burn.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
He's gonna fall asleep.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I think Jack Nicholson to keep him awake.
I don't know what movie we're talking about.
That's so good.
It's so fucking good. It's
So
my favorite
fucking good.
movie ever. So we're gonna watch it and we're gonna talk about it.
I don't know what movie we're talking about, so I don't know.
That's fine.
What fucking movie are we talking about?
It's Chinatown, Nathan.
It's always Chinatown.
Are we doing Big Trouble in Little China?
No, the
I mean-
movie is called
Jack-
Chinatown. We can do Big Trouble in Little China. I like that movie too.
Eh.
I haven't seen that movie in a while either.
I don't like some of the cult classics that everyone loves, and I feel like I'm your enemy when I
They're-
say shit like that.
No,
So there are definitely some cult classics that I don't enjoy. So Blade Runner has become kind of like a cult classic for sci-fi. Kind of.
kind of.
It's
Dude, I've seen Blade Runner shirts at Hot Topic. So it's
No, it's definitely up there with Big Trouble Little China, I
Yeah.
feel like.
Oh, you're saying that more than kind of?
yeah,
Okay.
more than kind of.
Okay, then more than kind of.
Yeah, it's
I can
definitely
agree
cult.
with that.
A cult movie because
yeah.
like he said, it didn't do well when it came out. That's kind of the definition of cult classic is that it didn't do well when it came out.
Yeah.
It went to video and then people discovered it after its release.
Yeah. Okay. So it is definitely a cult classic
Yeah.
then. Now I've shown this movie to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Most of which didn't like it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Same here, actually.
but when I say no part of me enjoys The Wizard of Oz. I respect it for what it was, what it did.
People want to tear your arms off.
But yeah, they want to rip me apart because and it's just not a movie I enjoy. But this is a sci-fi film
Yes.
that is a staple of the genre. I think if this would have came out before Star Wars or Star Wars come out later, I think this would be even more highly recognized
Yeah.
because Star Wars kind of cut it off right at the pass, right?
Yeah.
And I mean it's fucking Star Wars. But honestly, this is probably my favorite sci-fi movie it's out there. It's definitely my top 5 favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
I'd have to think about that I mean, it's definitely in my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd have to think about my favorites sci-fi.
Man, favorite sci-fi. Probably Starship Troopers.
I mean, I like Starship
Edit.
Troopers. What's wrong with Starship Troopers?
Edit.
Fuck.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's nowhere near my top 10.
I know,
but-
honestly, it was the first one I thought of, and I just wanted to say it to just
That
poke.
Starship Troopers is one of my favorite B-rated movies.
Oh, it
It's-
was a great B-rated
it's
movie. I would love to
satirical.
review it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I like it, and it's good in that sense.
But I mean, I don't
Oh.
know. Like, I guess this movie is totally Starship Troopers. You know what it reminded me of? Altered Carbon in a way.
So
It's got that feel, doesn't
yes,
it?
Yes.
Because we both really enjoyed that
Yes.
series. Did you watch that, Shane?
I have not watched it yet.
Oh,
Oh
dude.
man, that is really
When you watch
really
Altered
good.
Carbon, we will do Altered Carbon.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. See, we keep coming up with plans for other podcasts instead of completing the one we're on.
Yeah. No, we've like
And that's the
spitballed.
DQP theme, everyone. We love to talk about something and then run off in a tangent with other ideas because we're thinkers. We're a think tank. That's what we do here.
Yeah, we just don't talk about anything that we've already come up with the idea for.
Yeah.
We just keep coming up with new ideas.
Yeah.
Like we've spitballed like 4 or 5 different new podcasts during this podcast.
Yeah. And you guys are welcome for it.
Fucking ridiculous. We have like a list of like 60 things that we want to look at already, not including any of the ones that we've said during this particular podcast. And I imagine there's like 15 or 20 more that we've talked about since we wrote that fucking list. So
Well,
it's kind of ridiculous.
We
And-
could all watch Altered Carbon on our on our own time.
Yeah.
And then like get together and
I have a season 14 of Supernatural to finish.
yeah, me too.
And at draftyq@gmail.com, we will take your ideas
Suggestions. Yeah.
and suggestions, and then we will make podcast while we're talking about your suggestions when we make the podcast.
And send
about
in
it, so-
questions too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, ask why we didn't talk about a specific thing because it was your
Yeah.
favorite thing about a movie that we watched.
And we have discussed doing revisits
Yeah.
too. So
Well, there's definitely going to be revisits of things that we watched in the theater
oh yeah.
because it's hard to digest a movie completely in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can think of one in particular that wasn't watched very long, or that was watched just a little bit ago,
Yeah.
that we really probably need to redo.
Well, I've watched it twice, and
Yeah.
I still need to watch it some more.
Okay.
Anyway, we talked about effects. We talked a little bit. What were we talking about before we went on that fucking tangent?
Effects.
Bubblegum pop, this being a slow burn, pandering.
Oh,
How
okay.
movies, music, pretty much all of entertainment.
Yeah, and then
panders.
we got off on the tangent because of Chinatown.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
something important, though, with the movie. What are the differences between this cut and the original cut?
Well, thank you for
That's what I
asking,
want to
Nathan.
know, because there was something at the end of it, and I didn't want to discuss it until we were on here.
So I don't remember the
And I think I have an
exact-
idea, too.
Okay, so what do you think it was?
Yeah,
Is he a
actually,
replicant?
that's okay.
Okay, so
Because that's kind of like they give you, like, they foreshadow it, which,
So in this one,
okay.
there is no confirmation that Harrison Ford is a replicant.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
In the director's cut, there is a few more lines and like an extra scene,
yeah, the last scene is different.
and then the last scene is different at the end. So instead of which I love the last scene of this, he picks up the unicorn, you
Yeah.
hear almost his voice come over in the
Yeah.
voiceover. Someone will find her or whatever he says.
No, he says it's too bad she's gonna die,
Oh yeah.
but doesn't everybody or something like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. And he turns his back, fade to black, credits.
Yeah.
In the director's cut, he turns his back, he walks on, he gets on the elevator with Rachel, he turns, and his eyes gloss over the way hers have glossed over,
And every other
basically
replicant
confirming that he's a replicant.
I like that. But what I think would have been more badass is if somehow something would have happened during that final fight that really wasn't a final fight. We can talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Where he would have gotten hurt and then somehow been replaced with a replicant. Like if they would have like interweaved that in,
Yeah.
that could have been interesting. I don't know. I always look for like little turns and
See,
things they could do.
I thought I remembered more about like the piano stuff and him like looking at some photos that were his.
That I think that scene where he's like sort of dreams the unicorn.
Yeah.
I think that scene is longer, and he is like kind of playing the piano.
Okay.
And like just like a weird slow scene where it's like
Okay.
him thinking and us watching him think.
Right.
So I think that scene is longer. The scene where he goes. So the conversation in this one where he goes in and he has the conversation with the guy at the club.
Yeah.
That piece where he talks to that dude, I don't think is in the director's cut.
Yeah.
I
don't
think it
remember
just
that
cuts
either.
to him sitting at that bar, listening to the snake girl
Yeah.
situation,
Yeah.
and then going in, which I actually liked that scene was there, because I thought
It explains why he's there.
yeah, explains why he's there, and I thought it was a good scene, between a good exchange between him and the owner, where he's like, because the owner's like, get the fuck out of here, and he's like, are all of your licenses up to date? And he's like, this guy's dry, let's get him a drink.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much the big difference, which I actually like this version better because there's no confirmation. I like the alluded to over the hard, hey, this is...
I think leaving some of those other lines in and then not confirming would be better, because it's so very lightly alluded to in this version.
Right.
Because there's literally like one scene and 2 or 3 lines from various characters spread across the whole movie
Yeah.
that allude to him being a replicant. There's like a brief flash of his eyes going weird.
Yeah, there's the blur, the kind of like blurred background scene where Rachel's talking and he slides behind her, and like the background is blurred, but his eyes kind of glow like the replicant glow, but it could be interpreted that it's because of the effect or whatever that's happening. So
yeah, it's not definitive. But then there's like where she asks him if he's taken the Voight Kampf.
Yeah.
It's the Turing test. I don't know why they had to come up with a different name for it, but whatever. And then Gaff at the end, he says that you've done a man's job. And I thought that was kind of saying that he wasn't a man, you know.
Fair enough.
I mean, it's sort of a compliment, but it's also sort of, you know, alluding to him not being a real person. And I think there was one other line in the movie, but like I think there's more lines in the in the director's cut that go towards it.
It's like a whole separate arc. It's kind of like, so the difference between for our audience, or for Nathan, who I believe has seen both cuts, the director's cut to the final cut of this is very similar to the differences between the butterfly effect and the butterfly effect director's cut.
Yeah.
Where you can insert an entire B plot with just 5 to 6 lines of dialogue.
Right.
And maybe an extra scene.
Or just changing out a final
do
scene.
That one.
Yeah, or just changing out a final scene.
Yeah.
We have to definitely do that one.
I really like the director's cut of the butterfly effect. I think it has a really, really cool idea behind it, and it also resonates with me personally.
Huh.
Okay. We'll get back to that in that particular podcast. So what is that? 8 movies that we've added to the list, and a series.
Constantly churning out new ideas, or profiting.
No profiting.
No. Constantly coming up with different things to do. Yeah. That's what we do here.
Spending our money or time on gear and production equipment.
For you,
currently,
the people listening, you're welcome.
Just a hobby, but we would like to make it a personal endeavor.
Yeah, send us emails if you would support us on our Patreon when we get one up.
I also enjoy pizza. Send me pizza.
Yeah, we'll set up a dummy address, and we'll hook you up on the Domino's dinner bell app. So then when you ring the dinner bell, we'll go to the dummy address and pick the pizza up.
We'll even eat the pizza with you.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to just order it to your house and tell us to come over, that's fine too. So Nathan, I wanted to ask you, was there anything about the movie that you didn't like? I mean, other than it being a little slow. See, because like I feel like a lot of the problems that we had with the Marvel movies was other than like maybe some subpar writing, like on the particularly bad ones, was mostly effects, and then like inconsistencies either throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe or with the comics. So there's no basis for two of those things that we would complain about here, and we've already knocked the other one off because I'm not even fucking complaining about the effects in this movie because they're all practical and they're all fantastic.
So you need someone to complain about the movie.
I mean, we got to bitch about something or we're going to give it 3 fucking tens, okay?
All right. The movie would have been better if it wouldn't have been as slow, which we've already established.
Yeah.
I would have liked some background on the replicants, the Nexus replicants, like just a little bit of background more than what we got, and just like that police like computer review. You know, just backstory. That's what drives it for me. You know, I want to feel for the, quote unquote villain or protagonist of the movie. That's what drives it for me, because the what? Antagonist. Yeah. I want to feel for the antagonist of the movie. That's all I want. Like, if I can see a purpose, then usually everything kind of just like flows out and it works.
Right.
You didn't get that with that. They were just replicants, so they were just robots, so they didn't matter.
Yeah.
My soul hurts. So you didn't feel for the antagonist? Like, so Roy specifically. Let's
Oh,
yeah.
at the end of the movie, I did.
Okay.
okay.
At the very end.
All right.
But
My
not the other
soul
ones.
hurts
That's the
less.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like maybe a little bit for Leon. That was his name, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to
Leon
make sure I got it.
Kowalski.
I'm terrible with fucking names.
I think he was the next most relatable one.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
other than
And I
Roy.
think it's because we got that beginning.
Right.
That's why I felt something for that particular character. You see how that works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he had more dialogue and more like interaction. But like I get you, because like
I didn't feel for the snake dancer.
right throughout the whole movie, the two female characters, Pris and I don't remember what the other one's name even was, Zoya, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
think it
remember
was
either.
Zoya.
They were pretty much like not built up at all, especially the snake dancer. Like nothing
Yeah.
happened with her until he showed up, found her. They talked for a little bit with his little ruse, and then she attacked him and he shot her.
And like they pretty much portray Pris as like, you know, a Harley Quinn type of character.
Yeah.
Because, and now after watching it, when I see cosplay and I see women dressed like that, I'm like, well, now I know who they're portraying. Because
Yeah.
before I was just like, okay, I don't get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a goth chick with a weird black line across
Yeah.
her face.
And like, that's Daryl Hannah. Okay. Given it was what, 1982 when it was made, and she was 22. So like, I understand that she wasn't a big name. She was
Right.
just an extra character in the movie,
So I think
supporting actress.
that would be like my biggest complaint about this movie would be that the three that should have been large female roles were not like really developed very much.
Because even the character that plays Rachel, she was very popular in the 90s.
Yeah, but she is like the way that she, and I'm sure it was like you're supposed to be a robot acting or like pretending to be a human that doesn't know that they're a robot pretending to be a human, so act like that. So she was super dry in what she did do, and there was more of her than there were the other two. But like there's still still didn't feel like there was enough.
No. So this movie feels very much like an 80s movie.
Oh yeah.
Right. So, and I honestly think the reason the female leads suffered in this movie isn't necessarily due to anything to do with the movie, more so to do with how the female leads were looked at.
The time, pretty
time.
much.
Oh, yeah.
Which is super unfortunate
Right.
because you have three amazing female actors who.
Well, I don't know the other one, but she seemed pretty good.
Her
as
in
far
just
as
her
her
few
parts,
scenes.
yeah.
I thought she did better. So I thought she did better than Daryl Hannah did portraying a replicant type character. Not saying Daryl Hannah didn't do well, just saying if I had to pick between the three, it's Rachel first because I love how dry she is,
Right.
and then the snake lady who Zoya or whatever her name might be.
Let me look.
Okay.
I'm gonna give this lady her due.
Her second, and then Daryl Hannah, all doing phenomenal jobs with what they were given. But I do agree with you that at least one of them should have been considered a lead, because I honestly think it's hard to say any of them are leads, because even Pris, when in scenes with Rutger Hauer, takes a back
Zora.
seat. Zora.
Joanna Cassidy.
So even when you do have Pris and she's having a moment, if Rutger Hauer's in that moment, like her character is overshadowed by Roy.
Right.
So she kind of plays that.
Everyone is overshadowed by Roy in every scene. Okay, like I don't know what happened. I'm sorry, I'm just completely cutting you off here, but I don't know what happened in Rutger Hauer's life.
Rutger Hauer.
Yeah, I don't know what happened in Rutger Hauer's life that like derailed his career, and he was in so many like B action movies or like horror movies and like junk that I would look at. We're going back to the VHS in the video store. I would look at the VHSs and be like, "Hey, I recognize that guy," and my parents would tell me to put it down.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Dude is fucking on fire in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So that monologue he has at the end is fucking iconic, right?
Yes.
Like that is one of my favorite scenes of cinema, and he improvised a lot of that.
Yeah.
What he was given was like 3 paragraphs, and in the moment when they were filming it, he just cut it down. He just said what felt right out of those paragraphs, pretty much.
Yeah, because it's like 4 lines.
Yeah.
But it's so emotional and not emotional words.
Yeah.
It's not emotional words, but it's said in an emotional fashion, and like what he is basically saying is so relevant to somebody that is dying.
Yeah.
That it's ridiculous, and it like makes you, like you said, you didn't feel for Roy until that moment.
Oh, because it was fucking organic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was,
And
so
that's
good.
when you get those. And I'm not saying it was an Oscar performance, but you get those Oscar
Still.
performance moments. You know, it's not what they write; it's how you feel in the moment, and that he was being that character. But I want to go back and make one point.
Yeah,
you said earlier, like the replicants were playing. You know, they didn't know that they were replicants.
Some of them knew.
Some of them knew. Okay,
Yeah.
but the ones that didn't, in this world, is it they didn't know, and then the humans didn't know they were, or the humans knew they were, and they were just kind of like trying to like be like, hey, you're a fucking replicant. Like,
clarification, Rachel is the only replicant that didn't know she was a replicant.
okay, thank you.
She was the only one with prior memories. She was the only one
She
they
was an
tried to make
experiment.
believe that she wasn't a replicant.
Yeah, that she was a real
She didn't
person.
have prior memories. How come Leon had pictures?
Wait, what?
Leon just had pictures.
He had pictures, same as she did, right?
No, they weren't the same. They weren't of him younger. They were of him the same age.
Oh, yeah.
Now hold on a minute, because the pictures that Harrison Ford was going through in that sock drawer in his apartment where he found that snake scale were of children and such. These are very similar pictures.
Those are Tyrell's nieces. So that's how he knew those things about her. So there were those.
No, he mixed those pictures up.
Yeah,
because he had Leon's pictures and Rachel's picture together.
And the picture of Roy sitting in the
apartment, and
where
Zora was
like,
in the bathroom.
Yeah,
in like in a bed or in the tub or something.
Yeah, which that's a really weird scene that I enjoy, because it's like humanizing these, like, because you get Roy in this really like stoic, like he's clearly thinking like body language in this photo, and then Harrison Ford is like, what is she doing? And then she's like taking a nap or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's just this whole like humanizing moment for the replicants. But yeah, Rachel's the only one that, because she's the experiment, she's the new version of the replicants that Tyrell wants to feel even more real.
More human than human.
Yeah, more human than human.
What?
I'm not going to sing it.
Oh, okay. No, I thought you had something to say about it, but okay.
But and all of that's important moving forward. So,
I guess
Oh,
I
you
just
mean into the
understood
next
it
movie?
differently.
yeah.
Like
Do
the
I?
picture scene came off to me a lot differently when they were referencing that. Like I get what you're saying. Like he was talking about those pictures that he was looking at that, caused him to figure out who was who.
Yeah.
I get that. I just, when I seen the younger pictures too, I thought that all replicants had pictures from their younger lives,
Right.
that they
They
to
were
help out
so the
with that,
Nexus
so-
6s were born basically to be slaves and to be shipped off world to do those things. Rachel
Right.
was born to play a role, and in which case required her to have previous memories. So she didn't know she didn't figure out she was a replicant. It's kind of like the dream thing from Inception. Like, if you can't wake up from a dream, you have to try to remember how you got there, and your dream is typically never starts off like
Right.
when you start trying to remember how you got to the spot, you're like, oh shit, I can't remember. So
Right.
then the replicants are like, wait, I'm no older than 5 days or whatever.
Yeah, because they
And-
don't have any previous memories.
so
That's
do-
why they had such weird emotional responses to things. And Tyrell starts talking about this at a certain point when he's talking to Deckard, that they only have they have such a short lifespan that they only build up emotional experience for so long. And at the end of their 4-year lifespan, they start to develop emotional responses to things, but they're similar to a child, right? Because
Right.
when you're 4, you have like what as an adult you would consider mood swings or acting out, where it's violent or extreme changes in mood based on your emotions. And the replicants are similar because they only have 4 years of experience to develop their emotions. So when they created Rachel, they gave her memories to act as like a padding or a buffer. So when she started to gain more emotional experience, that was her actual first emotional experience, she would have those memories to relate them to. So then her emotional reactions wouldn't be as extreme.
I gotcha.
and that's played out in Roy and how he's dealing with the thought of dying.
Yeah.
And
Like everything he does is extreme.
yeah. So you take a person, you take a human, which is another one of the subtext things that I love about this movie is you take a human who can live, we're going to live somewhere between 50 and 80 years theoretically. And we have
33.
that
Bro.
he's going to pull a Jesus. So yeah, so you have all the subtext with Roy, so a person is going to live 50 to 80 years somewhere in between there theoretically.
At least
And
10 to 20 times what they are going to live.
Yeah. And after, I would say, around 20, you like start to really reconcile what death is.
Yeah.
And like figure out that, it's inevitable, it's going to happen. And then we have another 20 to 40 years to prepare for that.
Yeah.
And, the thoughts there. And I mean, there are, unfortunate things do happen where someone dies much earlier in their life. And if if you've ever had a conversation with someone who thinks they're going to die when they're like 25, 27, like there is this like,
It's panic.
yeah, almost like a panic. Like I thought I had this much time left. Like,
Right.
And then I really love the scene where Roy goes to barter with his
Yes.
creator. And
It's fantastic.
so good. And there's this whole thing, because like as a person, like there's this whole like God idea and figure and creator for people that, and throughout literature, it's written how we would converse with that type of person.
Right.
And so in Roy's panic of death, you get this moment, and then he fucking kills him.
Yeah. So he goes through what we see him go through the last 3 stages of grief.
Yeah.
Do we see him go through the other ones? I don't think we see him go through denial or anything, but we see him go through bargaining, anger, and acceptance.
I mean, you could say, I mean, he's kind of in denial when he's bargaining, like when he's
Yeah,
talking.
but I mean, bargaining is specific,
yeah,
so I don't know. Anyway,
yeah,
it's an interesting idea.
yeah.
I'm sure someone has already talked about it or written a paper about it or something, or an article at least.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, and then at the end during his monologue, I mean, then we have the acceptance for sure.
Right.
Which I've always thought it was interesting that he saves Deckard after seeing the fear on Deckard's face and even talking
Right.
about it. So, like, to me, interpretively, it's kind of like he has that last moment where he's been feeling this great fear for a good amount of time now. And when he sees it on Deckard's face, he kind of gets the sense that he's the only person that can alleviate that for him.
Right.
So he does that. And that's really the only way I've ever reconciled that on why he saves him.
Yeah, the first time I watched it, I don't think I got it. But I think you're pretty close or right on as far as how you're interpreting it, because that's how I felt this time and the last time. I think I've watched this like four times maybe. But this time and the last time for sure, I felt the same way, that because of Deckard's precarious position and his impending doom, both of their impending death.
Yeah.
He saw the same thing in Deckard's eyes that he had seen in his own and his other replicant friends.
Yeah.
And he decided to help instead of letting it happen.
Yeah.
Maybe because of some sub-programming or some bullshit, but maybe because in that moment he gained empathy.
Yeah.
He had finally gotten through enough emotional experience to have empathy at that point.
Yeah.
And that was his final moment, was gaining empathy.
Yeah. That's a really good way to look at it too. I like that.
So, and that's kind of how I thought about it. Kind of like seeing himself in Deckard.
Yeah.
And deciding at that moment to save him.
Such a good scene.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I got a question for you guys.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do androids dream of electric sheep?
That's the question.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
I mean,
that's who this movie was dedicated to.
Yeah. Well, it was loosely based off of the 1968 novel.
Yeah.
yeah.
By
Which
Philip K. Dick. And it was
Philip K. Dick.
It was actually, the movie is dedicated to Philip K. Dick.
yeah, and it's about as loosely based off of, which I always thought it was closer. I always had assumed that it was really close to the story,
Yeah.
but it's actually, the parallels are about as similar as Demolition Man being based off of A Brave New World.
That's what I was going to suggest part of this.
Doing
Maybe
Demolition
run.
Man.
Yeah, because it's the dystopian future.
Oh my God. Okay.
DQP does dystopian movies. We'll do like 5.
Fuck. Okay. So, all right. So we're doing this one. We're doing 2049.
Yep.
Obviously.
You want to do Demolition Man?
Yep.
So that'll cover our
And then Fifth
futures.
Element.
No. We got to do A Boy and His Dog.
Oh, God. What the fuck? With Don Johnson?
Yes. Edit out the seagulls. Stop it now.
If it didn't peak, I'm leaving it. Just because your comment.
And Road Warrior. Or we could
Boy and
do
his dog. I mean, do you just want to do like the whole Mad Max series?
what?
Like,
Well, okay, so we could do future dystopian, and we could do past or like
post-apoc.
okay, yeah, it would be like cyberpunk dystopian, and then post-apocalyptic dystopian.
Yes.
So then that would be put Fifth Element on there for the future. So that would make 4 movies. And then it would be A Boy and His Dog, Road Warrior, Mad Max, and Beyond the Thunderdome. Because I want to do the original
Okay.
3. I don't want to do Fury Road because
That's
it
fine.
doesn't really feel like the other movies.
No, it's just like I don't mind it being a Mad Max movie.
Yeah. I mean,
But,
I
like,
liked it as a
it's-
movie, but
yeah.
it has nothing to do with the other ones.
Yeah, it's like a side adventure.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is what Mad Max was doing on fucking for this 2 days.
Yeah.
I
What?
just don't know if I can sit through that first one again.
What? Road Warrior?
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, just
Really?
wait until you watch Boy and His Dog.
Is it slow?
No,
I don't think it's slow.
it's surprisingly not banned. Surprisingly
What?
not on a list of most controversial movies ever made.
I mean, it doesn't show anything crazy. It just gets real crazy.
It's real weird. I don't even know that I've finished it, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I think I've only seen like the first half hour, 45 minutes.
Oh, you didn't even get to the crazy part.
Because I only watched it. I only tried to watch it once. I found it on Netflix, and I watched it, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And then I got to the scene where he finds the crater, and I was like, "I cannot watch this."
Okay. So you didn't get to like the underground people,
Oh no,
like the people that live in like the bunker or whatever.
no.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I got to the scene where he interacts with the other people, and they're like in that crater, and it's like super fucking graphic. I got to that part.
We need to watch it because I
Yeah.
think I've only seen it the one time. It's real interesting. It's what a lot of post-apocalyptic dystopian shit's based off of.
I mean, I don't know.
There's a psychic dog.
I'd rather watch Marley and Me.
Have you ever watched Rubber?
No.
About a sentient tire?
Oh, yeah, where the tire just like rolls around.
Yeah.
It kills people.
Yeah, okay.
So that movie's so
Let's watch Teeth.
What the
Ugh.
fuck is going on? Can we like finish?
We're off
and
the
rate-
fucking rails
and
now,
rate this
and then we'll
movie?
finish it up with Hobo with a Shotgun.
I can't watch.
Bring
Hobo
it
with a
back around
shotgun
with.
again.
Bring it back around with Rutger Hauer.
Shot my fucking dick off, man. Fucking waving his little penis flap. Ugh.
And then we can watch
Alright,
Pink
anyway.
Flamingo.
We'll figure out what exactly we're doing off the air.
Oh, we're not
Um,
going to talk about Pink Flamingo.
Okay.
Okay.
What
I
are we
don't know
doing?
what Pink Flamingo is.
Do we want to do? Yeah, I don't know what Pink Flamingo is either.
Do we
We
want to
talked about it a while back.
Do we want to try to look up Easter eggs? Because I don't know if there would be anything.
So I have one interesting thing.
Oh, I have one too.
So
So we can do like little problems with the movie because I read a little bit about some editing errors and
okay.
a couple of little problems, and then you've got a thing, and then if it's not the thing that I'm thinking of, then I've got another thing.
Okay. You want to do the editing or
No, go ahead.
Okay. So there is a theory that this takes place in the same universe as Alien. because
okay.
there is a reference in one of the Alien movies to the Tyrell Corporation.
Oh, yeah.
And theoretically, the Tyrell Corporation or the Wayland Corporation was born out of the Tyrell Corporation.
So wait a minute. Was that Leon guy? Was he in Aliens? I feel like that's a movie he was in.
Oh, Brian James?
Yeah.
Probably.
So
Yeah.
one of the ideas is that what the fuck is his name?
Words are difficult.
What's his actual
sometimes.
name? What's his name in
Bishop.
the movies? Not Bishop, the android.
Bishop.
I thought Bishop was. Is his name Bishop? It's the guy that plays him. It's Jude Law in Prometheus, right?
Lance Henriksen. Bishop.
Oh, so right, but who is the? That's.
Oh, you mean in the first one? In the first one, it's a different guy. And it's not Bishop. It is Ash. Ian Holm.
Ian Holm.
Played Frodo in the...
Yeah.
He's the one in the first one, right? He's the android, I believe.
Data. I just named an android.
His name's David. I guess maybe they're all. I thought they were all the same android, but maybe not.
No. Bishop is in multiple movies.
Yeah,
But
and in one
Ash
of them,
isn't.
Bishop, you find out Bishop is like
Was
a
the-
clone or
Yeah.
something.
He was an android based off of like the guy that ran the company
Yeah.
that they all worked for.
So in Prometheus, Michael Fassbender plays David, who is an android who is eerily similar to what the replicants are,
Right.
along with the other androids throughout the series.
Right.
So there's a idea, and then there was a chart that came out.
Only they have milk blood instead of blood.
Yeah, there was like a weird viral marketing timeline chart thing that came out when Prometheus came out.
Yeah.
That put the Tyrell Corporation from Blade Runner in that timeline, but didn't put the movie Blade Runner in the timeline.
Okay.
So it's like alluded to that it happens, and all the Aliens movies and even Prometheus, like aside from AVP, which is not part of continuity.
Right.
Aside from that, all of the Alien movies take place off-world.
Yeah. Do they have a year, like a date stamp or anything on those? I don't remember.
It's like it's not like a Earth rotations date stamp.
Okay.
It's like a weird space correlation.
Well, the thing that would
thing.
make the most sense would be what we use for counting seconds, atomic clock.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to watch Aliens now.
Oh my god. So we're gonna do Aliens versus Predator, but instead of actually watching AVP, we're gonna watch the first 3 Aliens movies and the first 2 Predator movies.
Yes.
Okay.
I have those.
Good. I really like the first Predator movie. The second one kind of suffers from just trying to be an action horror movie.
I have all the Predator movies.
But Danny was a badass in that movie.
Yup.
I really like Predators. With it's got fucking
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody.
Yeah.
I haven't
Eric
seen that one.
Foreman. What the hell is his
Topher?
name? Topher Grace. It's got Topher Grace in it. That one I really like that because it's mostly based around like the humans and like their characterizations, and then the Predators play the horror element.
Right.
And like I really liked that movie.
Do you guys remember what we're supposed to be talking about in this podcast?
Daredevil.
Blade Runner.
Oh, I thought we were on
Oh,
comic books
shit.
again. I'm confused.
Are we still doing Blade Runner?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple more things, and then we're gonna rate it.
All right. Let's do it.
Okay, so we aren't gonna have Easter eggs in this movie because it's not really connected to anything else until we get a sequel like 20, 30 years later.
And it was in November, nowhere near Easter.
Yeah, exactly.
Edit.
What?
That was funny.
But we do have some interesting facts about it. There were a lot of ads in the movie, which Russell informed us was actually part of how they paid, or they made the budget of this movie was by product placement. There's like 3 or 4 times where you see Coca-Cola rather large on the screen. Now it's an ad on the side of a building in the city, and it fits in the movie. It just is ad placement.
So was Schlitz one too?
I don't know.
The sign was half lit.
There's in the original cut, that exact same sign is in 2 different scenes that are not the same location. So I'm assuming it probably actually was product placement, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
There were a few like editing errors or just like changes to, I'm not sure what they were to, if it was to the music that was played over the movie, or if they just had the actors stroke keys on the piano to the rhythm of the music, and then just took that sound out and replaced it with the actual song. But when either actor or Sean Young or Harrison Ford are on the piano, what they're playing is not what is being played. Because of the key and everything, and they're hitting a lot of minors and stuff, and it's not right. There's a couple of scenes where there were overdubs, and they used the shot where they said the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
Particular, the one that I saw come up a couple times was when Sean Young says that, of course, Deckard asks if the owl was real towards the beginning of the movie.
Right.
And she says, of course not. Where in the original shooting of the scene, she just says, of course. So they had her overdub, of course not. But she doesn't actually say not.
Oh, okay.
Her lips don't move.
Weird.
And there's a couple of scenes like that. There's actually one that I noticed, but it was like a coverage shot, which I see this all the time in TV shows, especially, but sometimes in movies where, if you don't know what a coverage shot is where you do several angles of the same scene so that you can break up the lines, so that you can take several takes of different lines and piece it together.
Right.
Usually it's a conversation dialogue where you have a camera basically over one person's right shoulder looking at the person they're talking to, and then you have the other camera on the other person's left shoulder looking at the first person.
Yeah.
Right? And you see a lot of, if you're paying attention, where the first person is talking to the second person, but you're looking at the second person and their jaw isn't moving.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
I see it so much. And it bothers me that I notice it now.
They just need to like move the camera a little bit more.
A little bit more
isn't
so you
in
can't see the jaw. But there was actually one where it was even more to the side, where you were actually looking almost at the side of, I think it was JF Sebastian's face, and he was saying something. I don't know what, but he was completely silent because it was like a pause between lines before I think it was Roy was talking back to him.
Yeah.
And Roy delivered his line, so it was almost like their lines were very close together, and then they were like, well, I think it would work better with a pause, and they just drug it back and then didn't do another take with just Roy saying the line. So you just had the guy playing JF with his mouth moving and there's nothing coming out, and then Roy delivers his line, and it looked really weird. There's another scene where Harrison Ford goes to, it's right after he kills Zora, I think. he goes and orders Tsingtao from a street vendor.
Right.
And Tsingtao is actually a Chinese beer.
Mm-hmm.
It just, just regular beer, comes in green bottles, looks like piss. Just your normal white beer. But he was given a fancy bottle with like a clear liquor in it.
Yeah.
So that was like a random weird error to specifically name a beer brand and then be given something that is not that.
Right.
I don't know why. I think that was all of those that I remember.
I had a particular thought, or something I thought was interesting, that I forgot till you brought up the music and the piano. So the scene where Rachel is in Deckard's apartment, the first time that she's there, and they like kind of have their weird fight thing where he, tells her about her memories and stuff, and that they're from his nieces. The score that is playing is very beautiful.
Yeah.
For 7 measures, and then the 8th measure is that weird dissonance to make you feel uneasy.
Yeah.
Which I don't feel like doing it that way is particularly common, because it's usually like there's like the dissonance in the sound to give you that uneasy feeling, or just maybe notes not in a key played together.
Right.
Right.
Usually
Usually
it's like either a familiar melody or one that they've played before.
Yeah.
And then they change the note choice a little bit, where like 1 or 2 notes in a particular part will be in like a turnaround or something will be out of key.
Yeah.
So then you notice that it's off.
Yeah. And it makes you, or even subconsciously notice that it's off.
Right, yeah.
But so when I was listening to that piece of music, it was really weird because that was much different than I feel like it's usually done, because you had 7 beautiful measures that were an actual melody and sounded good, and then the 8th, every 8th, because it was the same phrase for 3 measures and then a tag, and then same phrase for the next 3 measures and then the dissonant tag.
Yeah.
And it was just really weird, but I really enjoyed it, and I thought it really set that scene.
Yes.
Because like is a beautiful moment happening where he's like trying to care about her, and he wants her to know because like she just needs to know, and she's trying to deal with that knowledge that she just got of, oh shit, I really am a replicant.
Yeah, and he tries to walk it back.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with the score in this movie. There's a lot of like stacked sounds to get both like that dissonance to make you uneasy, but also to give you kind of like a beat to the scene.
Yeah.
With a lot of low end.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting. There are parts where like lines are punctuated with the score.
Yes.
And I think that's very interesting, and isn't done a whole lot, in that kind of movie, and especially like a sci-fi, like action thriller, I guess.
Yeah. We keep calling it a sci-fi movie, which that is definitely the genre, but this is very much a fucking art piece.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that just hadn't really been done
Right.
yet when this movie came out.
Because this was 82. I think the like kind of mastery of practical effects was done in like 77 when A New Hope came out.
Yeah.
Although, A New Hope was paled in comparison to Empire Strikes Back, which was, I think, right around the same time as this. I think it was 83, maybe 83, 84.
I always forget how far apart they are.
No, because I think Return was 85.
I want to say Empire.
80. So there was a longer break in between Empire and Return, but there wasn't a large gap in as large a gap in the effects as there was between A New Hope and Empire. Because I think Empire probably looks.
Return was 83.
Was it 83?
Yeah, so all
thought
of
it
them
was
were 3
85.
years apart.
But I think Empire is probably very comparable to this as far as the effects.
Yeah.
Everything is phenomenal in
Yeah.
that movie as well as in this movie. So let's go ahead and get to ratings since we're still stroking this movie's dick.
Oh yeah. We thought we'd barely get an hour.
Yeah, what are we at? Like an hour and 35?
Yep, hour 33.
Okay. So we're gonna continue to rate this out of 10. I'm gonna give this a 9.9. As far as the time it came out, kind of informs you of why certain things are the way they are, and the one point is, literally because they didn't develop the female characters enough, and there were at least two great actresses that went on to do a lot of good shit, and they didn't get enough development in this movie. There could have been another half hour, but I know people start shitting their pants when it gets past 2 hours.
Yeah.
And they can't handle it. When I would sit there and watch a 4-hour movie if it was good.
Oh yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Can't wait to do Titanic.
If it's good.
I mean,
do 4 hours if it's good.
Dude.
Just because he drew her like his French girls. Okay? Doesn't mean I need to watch anything.
I don't love the
that
movie,
scene.
but it's a good movie.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give it a 9.9. What do you think, Russell?
So I think I already said that, by and large, this is definitely one of my top 5 favorite movies. I've mentioned a couple of my favorite things. I did talk about it being a slow burn, but I really love the pacing of this movie, because it's such a build to payoff that is a lot of movies wouldn't be able to pull off the build and what the payoff is, because the payoff is Rutger Hauer's monologue, the culmination of his character coming to terms with death.
Right.
That's the payoff. And this movie builds to that one scene, and the end is good too, where Harrison Ford leaves, but I mean that's just to finish off the movie.
Yeah, that's more or less cleanup.
Yeah, that's just cleanup. So like I love the flow and the pacing of this movie so fucking much. And the subtext and just overall what this movie is about, and dealing with death is a very huge subject.
Yeah.
That's something
that
we
literally everyone has to go through.
Yeah. It's part of the the human condition. The replicant condition is they only have 4 years to deal with it.
Right.
And what is that like? And this movie asks a question and then answers it very beautifully. My only real big issue with this movie is the lack of development for our female leads.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been any one of them chosen as a full-on female lead. I don't care, when the movie came out. I don't think that's an excuse to not develop a female lead. So I also can only rate this movie at a 9.9.
Okay. Nathan, what do you think?
I think the 1 out of 10 scale blows.
All
I don't want
right.
to use it no more.
I mean, it's kind of how we've been rating these movies so far, bud.
That's how you rate them.
So how do you want to rate them?
I'm gonna rate them my way. So
Okay.
as far as this movie goes, we decided that I'm gonna give it a open packet of peanuts from an airplane. We're about 20 minutes of the flight worth is gone. Like there's still some good in there. A little salty. Slightly filling. They could have done more with the female leads. I think we all pretty much agree upon that. But yeah, no. In all seriousness, with the movie, yeah, there definitely needed to be a defining female lead in this, but it was slow, and that's just a big thing for me.
Yeah,
and it's how I watch movies, because we're all different. We all interpret things different. We all learn different. I'm a big believer in we all watch movies different. So that's it was great. I enjoyed it. I'd watch it again, but I don't think it's like top 5, movie for me. But yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. So
Slightly
we got
used airplane packet of peanuts.
All right. So we've got some peanuts and a couple.
Don't be so salty.
So.
Well, that might be my favorite rating anyone's ever given anything ever.
Jesus Christ.
Even though, I love this movie and I don't feel like that's a justification, but it just...
oh, my God. All right, so...
Airplane peanuts are good.
Okay. How would you know? You've never...
I've had peanuts from an airplane.
Okay. So just brought you... I got you these airplane peanuts. Are you Joey?
I might be. And I'm not even joking. Someone was on a flight and they're like, yeah, they gave us these. I was like, are those peanuts from an airplane? And I had to have them. So, yeah.
Oh, my God. Okay.
If you bring me a Toblerone bar, I would be fucking ecstatic. Please do that for me. Anybody. Okay. Or send them in an email if that's possible. Smush it up. Shove it in your computer. Send it to DQ. DraftyQ@gmail.com.
Drafty Quarters Productions is not responsible for anyone shoving a Toblerone bar into their computer.
But please send us pictures if you do.
It's a Nathan Pictures.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love chocolate.
That's going to wrap it up for this episode of DQP Does. And we're going to do Blade Runner. This was Blade Runner, the final cut. We're going to do Blade Runner 2049. And then we're going to talk about possibly wrapping this into a cyberpunk dystopian future series. And then possibly doing a post-apocalyptic dystopian future series to compare all those movies against each other and just against our sensibilities of how good airplane peanuts are.
Yeah, hey, listen to our 5-layer salad of dystopian future here we got going on.
It's more like a 8-layer salad. Oh my God. But like tears in the rain, we're out of here. Thank you.
Sacrifice yourself for the good of all mankind.
Oh, okay. Probably not.
Or I guess we can call that a Stark now, right?
Yeah, I mean, this
by the
isn't
time
coming out
the
for a while.
releases, someone still hasn't going to have seen Endgame.
Well, now there's no ceiling to it at all.
we went the opposite direction Nathan wanted to go.
20-pack and a bottle of scotch.
It was let's lower the scale.
No,
and we
I'm
were
just gonna start rating shit like stupid.
Yeah,
what do you think about this movie? I give it 3 Slim Jims.
God damn it.
Fine with me. This movie's getting 2 left tits.
And everyone will be like, "Is that a bad thing? We don't know."
This is like a high school situation I had that we've never talked about.
So you should say. I didn't actually write it down. I was making the edit joke. Now edit.
I wish you guys would get it together. I'm trying to be a professional here.
I almost threw up from like my abdomen convulsing over an open package of airline peanuts.
This isn't the unprofessional professional podcast. I just want to...
the professional unprofessional professional wrestling podcast.
Yeah.
But half of that duo is here today.
Which you can catch on the DQP podcast network. That's my salesman line.
This has been a production of the Drafty Quarters Podcast Network.